Rachel Portman is one of the UK's foremost film composers. Her often quirky, sometimes brooding and always beautifully elegant scores have accompanied the films of Roman Polanski, Jonathan Demme, Robert Redford, Mike Leigh and dozens more. She's one of that rare breed of creative artists who can adapt to any style but retain a unique musical voice, whether it's for a breezy comedy like Chocolat, a political drama like The Manchurian Candidate, or the prim world of Emma. You just know when it's a Rachel Portman score. She won the Best Original Score Oscar in 1997 for Emma, the first woman to ever win in that category. And she continues to be ever present on the big screen. Recent projects like Bellamy, Never Let Me Go and One Day prove that Portman is still looking for interesting and often challenging projects. I can't wait to talk to Rachel Portman here in the Elgar Room at the Royal Albert Hall for the first in this series for BAFTA of Conversations with Screen Composers.
I had a break from David Putnam, and it was through Alan Parker, who was giving a talk on one of his films, and I went along as a student, and I gave him, afterwards I sent him a cassette of this little film I'd done, sort of student film, and he passed it on to David Putnam, who literally gave me my first job, and it was a rewrite on a film that was going to come out on Channel 4, a drama, in like 3 weeks' time, and he said to me, "I'm not completely happy about the music, do you want to have a go?" And so I went home, and I sort of looked at the film, and I came up with a melody, and I came back with this other little audio cassette with a piano theme on it, and he said, "Right, you're on, off you go." And so he gave me a really big break. I was about 21, 22. I hadn't really done anything. This is where I work. I write on the piano, and I've got the screen sort of angled so that I can look at the piano and have ideas at the same time and write them down, which I write with pencil and paper on the piano. And then I can record and control the film through my computer here, and I use Pro Tools for that. So a typical day for me is literally just playing sections of the film that I want to work on throughout the day and just coming up with ideas, writing them down, recording them, which I have a very simple technology, but I feel that it works, it works great for me. So I just record my piano ideas in sync to the film, into Pro Tools, and then I can play them back with the film to see if they're working. From that process, when I want to, I just orchestrate from the piano, from my piano score, so I can just put it from piano score into the orchestra or whatever the instruments are. And yeah, that's all I really need, is just sort of around me like this. I don't have any synthesizers or anything.
You did a lot of television in the 80s,
yeah.
But the decade finished really on a big high, didn't it, with Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that project.
Well, it was a 3-part series, very sort of groundbreaking television making, very boldly directed by Biban Kidron, and a very bold story to match the extremely rich text of the story of Jeanette Winterson's, and a bold subject, and it was brave and colourful and hilarious, but really sad as well. And I had such fun working on it. I threw all sorts of ideas at it, and they stuck. And it's not often you get an opportunity with a script and and actors like that, where you can just really go to town on what you want to do. I wasn't wanting the music to ever sort of take over, though there were times when the music was incredibly bold in it, and Biban Kidron gave me that freedom to do that.
Like most people, I lived for a long time with my mother and father. My father liked to watch the wrestling, my mother liked to wrestle. Didn't matter what, she was in the white corner, that was that. She hung out the largest sheets on the windiest days. She wanted the Mormons to knock on her door.
Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
At election time, in a Labour mill town, my mother put a picture of the Conservative candidate in the window. She had never heard of mixed feelings. There were friends and there were enemies.
I do like the idea of having a theme and a melody. I've always enjoyed writing melody, and I do think that something magical happens if you start a melody at the beginning of a film, you know, and it's able to develop and it's there at the end. And even though most of the people watching the film won't be listening to the music or even perhaps even conscious of it, it somehow adds to the story. It's sort of like it's another character.
I heard she was some kind of radical.
As a composer for film, you're not just matching the script and what happens in it, you're also painting the characters. And so they're very specific to the actual actors and what they're giving out to you from the screen as to what you give back, and also the tone of their voices. You know, there's a famous rule that was one of the very first rules I learnt about writing music for film, which is that if you use an oboe in a similar register, because oboes can conflict with voices during dialogue, that's going to be a problem. And so you have to sort of have things higher and lower if you're going to score over dialogue. And you know, the tone of someone's voice will make a difference, just the actual pitch of it. So there are lots of things that sort of guide you to make the choices that you do. I've always felt that my job in writing a score for a film is to serve the film, and therefore and the director in particular, and the producers as well, but particularly the director and their voice and what they want. And it can really vary how much input they'll give you and how much they'll want to know of what you're going to do, or how much they're going to leave it up to you, or how much they're prepared to sort of and so every time I start working on a new project, that relationship has to start from, if it's someone you haven't worked with before, from the beginning. And writing music for film it's one of the hardest, I think, jobs for a director to give over to somebody else on a film, because they actually don't know what you're going to do, and music can be something really frightening to directors.
It's really the one thing that they often can't do themselves.
Yeah, exactly. They
can operate a camera.
Exactly.
They know about lighting. They know
Yeah.
about the acting. Often
Yeah.
they often are actors.
Yeah.
But they're not musicians, so they have to sort of.
So
give it over.
it's a terrifying choice to choose a composer. Normally, I would begin working on a film when it's in a sort of rough cut stage, and I would have probably had a few conversations with the directors before I'd been hired. So at that point, once the film was in a rough cut, I would receive a copy of the film and I'd look at it, and then I'd go and spot what's called spotting the film with the director and editor, usually in the cutting room, and I would bring to the table where I thought music should be in the film, and they would also probably have a pretty good sense of where they think music should be by that stage. But often they're really open to ideas and thoughts, and they actually, you know, they welcome the input of a composer's fresh eye on it. You know, I'd spend some time on the film on my own, and I would go through the process of getting to know the film so well. I'd read the book, you know, in this case I read the book. I would watch the film till I knew it inside out, back to front, and I would start sort of coming up with ideas, sort of. But there's a moment at which I always find when I'm, you know, writing music for film, there's a moment where I need to cross that threshold to where I'm actually in the film and I'm living and breathing it and I become part of it, and then it just all happens naturally. But I definitely stand outside the film whilst that process is going on. In Never Let Me Go, I watched it several times and tried to get to know it and trying to cross that barrier where you suddenly become part of the film and then a musical idea will come. And it's often difficult to pinpoint exactly why you have a musical idea or why you use a particular instrument, but there was something in the character, the main character of Kathy, of her, of this sort of love that she couldn't fulfill with this young boy. I just had this chord in my head, which was like a sort of chord which wouldn't go away, and then to have a melody always underneath it, as opposed to, you know, most traditional music, the melody's on top and the chords are underneath. And I thought, because I wanted to have this thing that was held, so to have this melody underneath.
By the time Ruth and Tommy actually did separate, my carer training had already begun. So I was hardly ever at the cottages. It had never occurred to me that our lives, which had been so closely interwoven, could unravel with such speed.
It can take quite a long time until I feel I've found the musical voice of a film, and whether that be just a tone or whether it be a melody, it can take a long time to get there, and it can be agonising sort of waiting, and you can get close to it and you get glimpses of it, but it won't be fully formed. And sometimes it's really frustrating because I'll be working on something for about a week and it just won't, I know that there's something wrong with it. I know I'm probably in the right ballpark, but and then I find the very best thing to do is to record it, put it up against the film, put my pen down for the day, and then come back to it the next day and have a look at it. And usually then I have a pretty clear idea of whether I need to throw it out and start again, which you've got to be brave enough to do even though the clock is ticking and you've got less and less time. The theme will come, it always does.
Let's talk about Emma, a big success. Your Oscar winner, of course. A first-time director, actually, Douglas McGrath.
Yeah, I forgot
mostly
about
a
that.
writer, I think, before he directed this film. How did you come to the project?
He got in touch with me and he'd heard some of my music on something else. I can't remember what it was, but it was a long time ago. I've worked with him on everything he's done since. And he's the most wonderful man and unbelievably particular about what he wants music, and how he wants the music to be. Not about the melodies. He's always really happy, usually, with the themes that I come up with, but really sort of very precise, and particularly in comedy. And Emma is a comedy. A film like Emma, which is a period film, I probably unconsciously went to a very different part of my musical sort of writing brain to write the music for that, because I was working in a context of a period film, so I wouldn't have needed a different idiom. And the idiom I chose is very much my idiom of what I would think a period film would want, as opposed to somebody else's. I wouldn't have wanted to put a piano in that score. And I don't know why that is, they played pianos then, but it just didn't feel right. So it's sort of not of the period, but it sort of harkens more back to a sort of traditional kind of harmony. It's based more on sort of folk dances, the score for Emma, and that sort of seemed to work with the light humour of the film, and you know, the rural setting and the sort of the formalities of them all as well. It all seemed to sort of go with that, which is why I chose that medium. Then of course you have the performances, and with a fantastic central performance like Gwyneth Paltrow's in Emma, she gave me as a composer a lot to play with because of her, the way she played it, her humour and her, and her pain at times, and her falling in love and her matchmaking. And I'm hugely influenced by what I see on the screen and the tone of her character.
Well, I have to ask you about the Oscar, because, of course, you won for that score.
Yes.
What was that like for you, the whole experience?
It was amazing. It was like being invited to a party and becoming part of a club that you were just totally on the sidelines for. It was a total surprise, and I mean, it was great. It was really wonderful.
You were the first woman to ever win a Best Original Score Oscar, so that must have meant something to you.
Actually, it didn't. No, it didn't.
It's a historic moment, Rachel.
I get asked about it a lot, but no. I mean, I've never thought of myself as a female composer.
But a lot of people will have seen you win the Oscar, I'm sure, and think, you know what, actually, that's something that I'd like to do myself. So I'm bound to ask you, having been in the business quite a while now, what you might tell young composers who want to become film composers.
Get as much experience as you can working on student films. Theatre is good. Don't give up if you really want to, because I had many years in my 20s with very, very patchy work and sort of like 18 months with nothing, and it's hard to break into it. It's a different world now than it was when I broke into it. There's far more opportunities to study it now than there were. I mean, I didn't study it at all. And nor did I really study other composers, through my own self. I mean, I was fascinated by film, so I didn't study the greats either. And I think that it's fantastic to be able to study it now. You can get so much experience and, try and find the young filmmakers, the student filmmakers who are out there and try and work on their films, I would say. It's the best way to get into it. I love working at home. This studio is in fact in my home, and it's slightly soundproofed. It's not perfect. If a big siren goes past outside, I'll hear it. But it's slightly sort of cut off, one step removed from the rest of the house, and it's great to work from home because you don't waste any time travelling. And if you have a thought in the middle of the night, you can come running downstairs. In this case, this is in the basement. I can come down and jot ideas down. So it's never that far. I'm never that far from my piano. I love working from home. It's worked great for me. I sort of celebrate the fact that there's so much different music on film out there. I think there's too much music on film. I wish people use it less. I wish I was able not to have to, be encouraged to sort of write music over so much. I'm always saying actually a bit less is much better, because, the music starts, people relax, they sit back, you stop the music and they sit forward again and they sort of concentrate, because the music's come out, and it's really important where the music comes out, and to let it be out for a while, and then when it comes in again, actually it does something. It's able to work. It's magic.
I'm just a little stuck, sir, because I remember. Okay, Shaw, okay, Shaw saving us, right? But that doesn't make sense, because that should have been you. Okay, if Shaw is in the Hummer, the Toyota is here. All right, just get up. Get up. Listen, it's over. That's done.
Where do you learn as a composer how to write in every style possible?
From listening to music, I guess, or just absorbing music. But I don't know how to write in every style. I mean, I have my own idea of what a particular style would be. Yeah. Manchurian Candidate is an interesting example because it's a very frightening film. And my initial conversations with Jonathan, he said, look, this is a very frightening film. I think I'd like a very, a sort of Hitchcockian, in-your-face, rugged, fear kind of score. And so that's what I did. I went off and wrote you know, this sort of big score, and we recorded a lot of it, and then he looked at it and he thought, oh my goodness, this is not what I wanted. And which was terrifying for me because the film was going ahead, it's a huge film and everything. And in searching for direction, it's very, very hard for some directors to give good direction to composers because they're not often sure what they want or what their film needs. You know, Jonathan's someone who he sent me off on Beloved as well, on lots of different, sort of, to look for different things. And I love that. But in the end, on Manchurian Candidate, he said to me, what I need is the music to be viscerally frightening. And the minute he told me that, I knew what to do. I don't think I mean, there was nothing I studied as to how to write music like that. I just tried to write music that made me frightened when I was writing it.
Listen. Go to the bedroom of your suite. Enter the hallway there. Go to the end and open the closet.
Hello, Raymond.
Hello.
Do you remember me?
No, sir, I don't.
Is it true that give a film composer 6 months to write a score, they will take 6 months, but give them till Saturday and they'll do it by Saturday?
Yeah, they'll do it by Saturday. Yeah, they will. Yeah.
That's just the mindset.
Yeah, yeah. You just make it fit, you know. Yeah. There are huge pressures, time pressures, in getting a score to the finish line, you know, in time. And, you know, it does become harder to enjoy the process, but there is always that moment where you think, I think I've cracked it. I think I can have a day where I can completely lose myself, where I've been searching and actually quite worried that I'm going to come up with a theme, and then I suddenly find it, and I'm exuberant. And that's the best feeling in the world. That's why you do it.
Who would you say are your main influences?
Well, it sounds weird, but probably Bach and Ravel. I don't really have film sort of influences as much. Probably Ravel more than anyone. But
who do you admire though in your own business?
I admire John Williams. I don't like everything he does, but I'm not so keen on the big brash scores. But I thought Schindler's List was really beautiful. I'm just trying to think. I think some Morricone's, some of his westerns, you know, were just fabulous. Mostly melodies. Nina Rota, wonderful.
Do you ever turn projects down because you just don't like the story?
Yes, yeah, I do. I think it's really important to be selective because otherwise you can be matched with something that really doesn't interest you very much. Yeah, I think it is important to want to work with interesting directors where you can, and projects that mean something to you. Whether it, you know, even if it's something small budget over something large budget, if you're writing music, it's got to be of value to you in order for you to do something that's going to have your heart and soul in it. So I think it's really important.